So some of the stuff I bring on my kayak is of course my pliers, which I keep everything, floated. Because in a kayak you lose a lot of gear and it always sinks. But this always keeps it floated and keep a boga float. And then stinky pants, they actually make a float for your keys, which I got on right now. So if you ever drop your keys in the water, which I've done several times, your keys won't sink. And the stringer right here, which they just came out with it. I'm sure you'll see me do a few posts about it. It's got a smaller float, so when you're pulling fish, it doesn't put a lot of resistance against your kayak instead of having a big float and trying to pull it compared to the small float. And then I just bought this bag right here. I typically don't bring it on my kayak, but it's real nice. It's real water resistant. Fish Slick makes it. Keep all your tackle or your gear in it when you're riding home. And then I'll start with which lures I typically use. This is the Unfair shrimp, which I just started using these. The main reason I got it is I'm just so sick of wasting my money on gulp, and gulp after you use it a couple times it's hard as a rock. But it falls real slow, so if you're fishing shallow water, you won't get hung up a lot. The skitter walk, I don't do a lot of trout fishing, but when I do trout fishing, I use the skitter walk. It typically makes a little, lower pitch, and trout respond to that more. And if I'm fishing the marsh for redfish, I'll use the she-dog, which the she-dog has a lot more aggressive sound, which the redfish, man, they hate it. As far as colors go, I like to use anything chrome. Chrome and pink is my go-to color. I just have confidence in pink. I'm not sure it really makes a difference which color topwater you use. It seems they all work the same. And then this is a Strike Pro hunchback. These are actually getting pretty hard to find. This has become one of my favorite lures because a lot of people that I take out, they can't walk the dog like one of these. So with this, all you have to do is reel it at a steady pace, and it just sits right at the surface and makes a wobble. You just kind of keep your rod tip pointed up and just reel it in a steady retrieve. It almost feels like a crankbait in the water if y'all need to do any bass fishing.
Are those discontinued?
I've
just heard.
They're not discontinued. There's some kind of issue with the maker of it. Until it gets resolved, they stop making them. But y'all can find them at Serious Tackle. That's one of the only places I know has them right now. And then my go-to side casting lures is this one right here. It's a Chicken Boy Psycho Shad. And when you're side casting, you want to use the widest jig head possible. A lot of people I've seen, they're throwing real heavy jig heads and they're just getting hung up because their jig head isn't 16th ounce. And then it's another good one I was catching fish off yesterday. It's a Down South. It's got a lot of good action to it, and the fish really respond to that tail. And of course, I use a lot of bugs. This is the new Radek Shad, which I used the other day, and it works really well. It's got a weight right here in the back, so when it falls more naturally, and it actually looks like a shad in the water if you've ever used it. A lot of people, they're kind of intimidated by using bugs because they think they're too light to cast. You can't be really accurate with them. The main thing to remember is to get them wet and make a few casts before you actually start casting at redfish. Because if you see a redfish, you never cast at this lure, chances are you're going to make a bad cast because you have no idea how you're going to cast it. And then these are his new flats bugs right here. They're basically a smaller version of this one right here. They make a really small splash in the water. So if the fish are real spooky, this won't spook them. This one right here I like to throw when the water's a little bit rougher. It's pretty heavy. It's got a real flat jig head, so when it hits the water or hits the mud, it makes a big puff in the mud. The redfish just nail it. I've seen several flounder, like my buddy Clay's actually side casted a flounder with this. It's that effective in the mud. And then of course I use a lot of I just started using Pro Gear. It seems to work pretty well. A lot of guys, they just rub it on the lures every couple casts. But I've seen a lot of people, they actually rub it on the bottom of their topwater. It almost makes like a scent path to the lure, which I haven't tried it yet, but it sounds like it worked really well. And then these are just my favorite colors. Psycho Shad, it's a Texas roach color, black and gold. Saltwater Assassin, it's a chicken on a chain, just small paddle tail, which this is probably the one I use the most, is Saltwater Assassin, chicken on chain paddle tail. And then this is another new one that I've been trying out. It's working really well. It's a Saltwater Assassin curly tail. I mean, it's killer for flounder too. And then of course, if the water's pretty clear, I like to throw something real white and looks almost like a shrimp in the water. This is saltwater sass and sugar and spice. It's another really good color. It's actually pretty new. They just came out with it. I always carry, first aid on my kit, first aid kit on my kayak. Anything happens. I always carry. I pretty much just carry two tackle compartments. One for hard lures and hooks, and one for just my plastics. And it's all, I use the waterproof case. It just keeps all my stuff pretty dry.